Uh, Welcome everybody to the committee of the whole meeting for April the 13th. We'd like to start the meeting, take a minute to acknowledge the traditional territory of our friends and neighbors of Treaty 8, our Prophet River First Nations, as well as the Fort Nelson First Nation. We're in their traditional territory. We recognize the rights, we recognize our treaty, and we recognize the contributions of the Métis people in our region. So please be advised that tonight's meeting is available for the public to attend virtually and is being streamed and recorded. So I do believe that the CAO has an addition to tonight's agenda.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. We have someone new in the gallery. Just want to step up. So our new HR manager, Jessa Chupik, isn't with us now.
Get up to the table, Jess.
Please put on your hot seat. So Jessa has been with us now for a couple of weeks, and it's awesome to have her. And just want the opportunity to introduce her to the councilors, the elected officials that haven't had the opportunity to meet her yet.
Welcome.
Welcome, Jessa.
Thank you. I'm really enjoying myself, and I'm really enjoying meeting people from across the municipality and seeing the teams at work. And I will tell you, the airport, they have the best stories.
It's some fun out there.
Yes. So,
Well, hopefully you'll stick around. We'll have supper between meetings, and maybe you can take the opportunity to talk with some of the councilors you haven't met yet.
that's great. Thank you.
Thanks, Jess.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks, Jess. Okay, are there any other additions to today's committee of the whole meeting? Okay, everybody's okay with the agenda the way it is. We'll move forward. So is the delegation online? Good. Okay, so we'll start with what? Oh. So Geoterra is here to talk to us about our community wildfire resiliency plan. So I believe Lisa, Amy, and Caitlin are online if they're here. So I will turn it over to you for introductions and to take us through the presentation, please.
Hi, everybody.
Are you able to hear us? Sorry, go ahead, Caitlin.
Yeah, so it's just Amy and I this evening. Lisa wasn't able to attend, so you've just got the two of us. And yeah, we're ready to get started.
I'll share my screen here. Also, we'll start with apologizing for the last one. I'm sorry with the mix up that we mixed it.
That's okay. No harm, no foul.
Just let me know when you can see that there.
And we can see the screen.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, so yeah, just wanted to thank you all for having us here tonight. We're happy to get to join you for the final presentation for your community wildfire resiliency plan. So we just wanted to start off by thanking everyone who was a part of the engagement process for the CWRP. Starting off with Heather and Sean from the Fort Nelson First Nation, the residents of Toad River, the NRM Community Fire Smart Resiliency Committee, all of you on the Municipal Council, the Fort Nelson residents at their community engagement event, the government representatives that we worked with, especially getting to incorporate some land parcels within Fort Nelson for fuel treatment under their wildfire risk reduction funding program, which I'll talk a little bit more about after. Enrico from the BC Wildfire Service and Devin from the Northern Rockies Fire Department. We've really enjoyed being a part of the CWP process with you all and have learned a lot along the way. So thank you. And we wanted to speak to the recommendation priorities within the document. So the high, moderate, and low recommendations, the priorities were based on the potential impact that the action will have on reducing the wildfire risk to a community and improving overall resilience. So they were informed by things like the wildfire threat assessments that we did out in the field, looking at values at risk and local fire behavior. And then they were incorporated within the 7 Fire Smart disciplines within the document. The high priority actions are the ones that are going to deliver the greatest immediate outcome. So if you see a lower priority within that list, it doesn't mean that it's not valuable. It's just sequencing based on, as I mentioned, the impact, the urgency, and the feasibility of being able to implement them. They were ranked based on our professional opinion and taking into account data, effectiveness, cost, and timelines. So, for example, if a community didn't have the required resources available for a particular action within that list, it might be labeled as a high priority in terms of the impact that it will have. But in the timeline side of things, maybe it can't be implemented until 2 years down the road. So we take into account how realistic it is for the community to implement at the time. And moving along, apologies. Oh, just a second. So we wanted to share a visual of the treatment units that we identified through the CWRP process. So the top left image near the golf course is the treatment unit we identified on municipal lands. However, during the process of developing the CWRP, the funding through the Community Resiliency Investment Program, which is who we apply to funding through for the vegetation management and the fuel treatment, it's no longer eligible through them. They're no longer funding the fuel management. So alternative funding would need to be found for that parcel, that green parcel up in the left-hand corner. And then in the lower right image in Fort Nelson there, and just kind of off to the left of town, the west of town, those are 3 treatment units that are actually on Crown land. So we worked, as I mentioned, with the Ministry of Forests, and they agreed to include those within their Crown land wildfire risk reduction funding stream. And they'll take on the prescriptions and treating that area for vegetation management. And moving on.
So we did write out all of the high priority recommendations, but I understand that you may have had time to go through them. So we can either open the floor now for questions, or if you'd like, we can run through the recommendations quickly. The only one that would be added to the list that you probably haven't seen in the CWRP is the last one here. A recommendation was requested to be added to hold a hands-on educational learning session for Northern Rockies for sprinkler system deployment. So anyone in the public who either has a sprinkler system, wants a sprinkler system, wants some experience setting it up, put on a demonstration project for those folks. Oops. Sorry, I can take it back to the beginning there. So I guess we can just open it up to questions if there are any about the recommendation, the plan itself, any comments?
Any questions from council? Okay, please, Councilor Deputy Mayor Gerwing.
Hi. So on page 5 of the report under Fire Smart training and cross training, I note that there is the priority is moderate and the recommendation is training for Fort Nelson Fire Department. And then the explanation. Wondering if that training is specific for the fire department, or, I mean, the words say fire department, but are we thinking that perhaps other people need that training as well, or?
So, sorry, is it recommendation 23?
22.
22.
Yeah. And then, yeah, my next question was on 23 too. I mean, maybe that would make more sense because item number 23 is to apply for CRI funding to acquire a structure protection unit for Toad River. And so then I'm wondering, what's the rationale behind buying equipment but not providing training?
So 23, those 2 courses, the SPP 115 and S231, would be specific for the fire department because there are prerequisites to those courses that you have to take. So the fire department would probably be the only ones eligible for those courses. And then 23, sorry, it's a different order now because we've added that sprinkler recommendation. So you're 23, are 24 now. So apply for CRI funding to acquire structure and protection unit for Toad River, adding to the existing Fort Nelson SPU trailer. So there is a recommendation before it, 21, is it, for training for Toad River members to be able to deploy the structure protection unit if one was ordered. I know there was going to be some discussion around liability around that, around specific training for residents rather than fire departments. I'm not sure, Terry, if that was something that was looked into.
Yeah, the decision is pending, Amy, so we're still
Okay.
working on it.
Okay, so that may change going forward because, yeah, like I said, there was something brought up around liability for training outside of the fire department and then giving folks equipment to actually set up structure protection and potentially complete suppression on their land. So that might change.
Okay, so maybe this isn't a question for you, but is the point of having the community wildfire resiliency plan as a document that the local committee is going to be using to set some priorities? So will it be connected to this plan and these recommendations? Or is our local committee looking to have recommendations outside of this plan? Because I'm not clear on the point.
See, Terry.
So the recommendations are the recommendations that we as staff in the municipality will undertake. If the council decides, or pardon me, if the committee decides to undertake other activities, it would be outside the CWRP, from what I understand.
Or within the CRP,
Yes,
but not, we're asking it to bring, the committee could make a recommendation to bring a recommendation forward more quickly
yeah.
than maybe what is, right? So they have the opportunity to help set priority, but they're only making recommendations to council, right? The CWRP belongs to the council and the community, not to the committee. Committee was part of
The committee was part of developing
it and reviewing it and making comments to the contractor, to Geoterra. And then once it's in place, they have the ability to review it and look at it and make some recommendations to the council about action from that.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that I'm on the right track here. So the committee has been involved in making this plan. So unless things were to change dramatically, this plan can help to determine the work of the NRM and the committee, correct? So we sort of, because my hope was.
Guidance tool.
Yeah, my hope is that we would have sort of a roadmap, so there wouldn't be, we should do this and we should do that and we should do the next thing. There would be more of a planned approach too. Yes, that's what we're all hoping for.
If I may, our pending application for the 2026 CRI that isn't part of the regular meeting today, our department's still working on the finalization of that, pending the signing off of the CWRP. We want to make sure that we tied the high priority items identified in the CWRP with our application, specifically this year, because we know the fund is going to be oversubscribed this year. So everything we're asking for in our application is directly tied to the high items within the CWRP. Not all of them, because there's not enough money, but some of them.
So that there's funding to work on some of these recommendations this year.
Can I ask one more?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. So then am I correct in assuming that the committee had a hand in setting the priorities?
Only from a feedback perspective, I think that it was staff and the contractor that set the priorities based on the what's the word I'm looking for? There's a set of criteria that they use to set those criteria, those criteria. So you can correct me, I think it was yourself and Lisa and the contractors who set the priority, moderate, low or high.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Amy, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of these recommendations and the way you establish them in high, medium, and low are based off a UBCM model too, right? That we need to follow.
Right, model, that was the word I was looking
Yeah.
for, the model, yeah.
So a lot of this Mayor, came out of the CWRP has to be built in accordance with UBCM guidelines.
Huh.
And the guidelines would have dictated what would qualify as a high, moderate, or low.
Right.
Some of them could be moved up,
Right.
or some of them could be moved down.
And so to answer the question, so the committee had the opportunity to review these and the recommendations, priority lists. That's where and had opportunity to say they should come up or
Yeah.
down. And I don't believe there was any changes.
Well, the one,
from-
other than
well, there was
the
an
recommendation that the
addition.
committee made to add,
Right.
which we did.
But we didn't change any of the priority levels within the existing report.
No, we didn't.
Right.
Thank you.
And I'll just clarify the recommendations themselves. So they started basically from, like Terry said, the framework from the model that UBCM sets. And then we also did have the engagement with Toad River and Fort Nelson, and we got a lot of ideas from that engagement with residents. And then also sitting in on the committee meetings, we sat in on quite a few, and just hearing that discussion on where the gaps may be, and then also reviewing all of the relevant materials. So community plans, any emergency response plans, we could see what's already in place for fire smart initiatives and wildfire risk prevention. And then, so we didn't have to duplicate any existing work. And then we were also able to identify any areas that there were gaps, and that's where recommendations came in as well.
Right. Okay. I'm not
And
seeing.
maybe-
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Amy, if you wanted to scroll down to maybe the action plan table, just to kind of give if they didn't have a chance to look at that one, it does kind of break it down a bit better in terms of who the lead would be and our recommended resources for each recommendation. So it breaks it out a bit further here. Let's see.
So that would start on page 70.
Exactly. Yeah.
Page
72.
70, page 78 of our agenda. Yeah, excuse me.
If you're able to see this. So this is broken into the 7 Fire Smart disciplines. So there is a mix of priorities throughout each discipline, but then it gives a recommendation, the objective, the lead. So who will lead the implementation of the recommendation, the estimated time frame, metric for success, and any eligible funding streams for each recommendation. Are you able to see that screen?
Yep.
Okay.
The screen is really small, but we've got a printed copy. Most
Okay,
of us have a
perfect.
printed copy in front of us, so.
Great.
I'll stop sharing then.
So I
Any
don't
other
see, yeah, I don't see any other questions if you want to proceed or where you're at.
Yeah, that was it for us. If there are any more questions, comments that come up as you review the document or chat about it, feel free to reach out anytime. Reach out to Terry. He has our email address. You can send it directly to us. Yeah, anytime we're available.
So maybe the next steps from a council's perspective, for what are the next things we need to do as a council to move this draft plan forward?
Nothing. So,
Nothing,
no, this was the last opportunity for comment.
right?
The next step is, Geotero will sign it. And then there's 4 people within the municipality that will sign off on it. And then I'll submit it to BCM for acceptance, with our hoping to do that this week, and then our grant application next week. And our final report for last year next week as well. So timelines are pretty tight now. I think April 27th is our last business day, or 25th, sorry, is our last business day before everything is due. So
So there's no requirement for council to sign off on the document. It's a staff level document?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody else?
Mhm.
Not, then thank you very much for your time today, ladies. Thank you for all the hard work that you've done. Thank you for being patient with our committee, answering their questions and working with them along the way. I certainly appreciate it, and I'm glad to see that this is done and we can move forward. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We've really enjoyed the process, and sorry again about the last one. Thanks for
No,
being
again,
here.
no harm, no foul.
You were early today, so I'll forgive.
Okay. Have a good
Talk to you
evening.
guys later.
Thank
you.
you very much.
Bye.
Okay, there's no new business items. Is there any questions from anybody in the gallery or on the line? No, seeing none, then we will move to a closed meeting. Talk about the receipt of advice, solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. So we'll take a couple of minutes to get set up for that. Okay, thank you, everybody. We are finished with the closed portion of the meeting. There is no decisions to rise and report, and so we are adjourned for the committee of the whole meeting of April the 13th. Thank you very much.